he'll be, back home. That'll be lovely. And I thought Glenn Powell, he's from Texas or something, he's probably thinking he needs like 25 layers to survive this.
Yeah, I'm sure as part of his team, he'll have somebody with a duvet that just walks behind him, and he just clicks his fingers and it just envelopes him,
I mean, what is Glenn Powell actually making here?
The Running Man, the remake of the...
Was that a TV show?
No, it was a film. Was it a film? Yes, it was a film. Arnold Schwarzenegger film. It's based on a Stephen King book, but he didn't write it. Stephen King, he wrote it as Richard Bachman. It was one of the Bachman books, and I don't think this was the one that outed him. I think it was the one after that, Thinner. I think it was. Somebody figured out who it was. Did a bit of investigation, which I always think's a really sort of shitty thing to do, just for the sake of an article they go digging about, because obviously people would be enjoying these, because he wanted to sort of see if it was just his name that was selling the books.
That's an interesting little experiment, isn't it?
Yeah, so he published a couple of books under this name, under this other, is it a nom de plume they call it?
Yeah.
Richard Bachman. They were just sold cheaply, the kind of thing you get at bus terminals and airport lounges and all that. And it was Richard Bachman, just these cheap novels. And it took about 3 or 4 of them for him to actually make a name for himself. It wasn't an instant hit or anything, but he got an audience for these Bachman books. And obviously the styles were similar.
I know, because that's the thing. I suppose as a writer, whether you intend to or not, you do have quite a distinct, you'll have ways of phrasing things or whatever. I feel like I noticed that when I read that last Joe Nesbo. I was like, I'm so familiar with how you structure sentences, and even just like we turns of phrase that you wouldn't get in any other author. So I suppose there's no getting away from that. That's fine.
Well, he used an analogy of, I think it was the Beatles. They were talking in an interview. I think it was John Lennon or something. He was talking in an interview, or Paul McCartney. I can't remember which one, but they said they had a plan in order to sort of get back to the roots and sort of revitalize themselves and sort of, I'm not going to say get back, but in order to sort of reconnect, because they knew they were drifting apart, sort of musically and in terms of the friendships as well, was they were going to do a quiet tour in America and just play all these wee sort of out of the way places, just sort of wee bar rooms and things like that, and just do those sort of shows and not announce anything, have a fake name and all that. And I think, and it was pointed out to them that as soon as they started singing, everybody would know who it was. It's not the case of like a book. And then I think it was Stephen King pointed out, says, well, see, before you even sang, as soon as George started playing his guitar, everybody would know who it was. So it's that kind of thing. It's the style of it. No matter what they did, they would know. Oh, they sound a bit like the Beatles. Wait a fucking minute, who's that?
I suppose in a way it's a testament to your style, that it is so unique, that it's so identifiable. In a way, I suppose I think the sort of strongest maybe example I can give this is like watching a Tim Burton film. Like you know the minute the credits start and the type of music that he uses and the sort of style that it's going to be a certain type of film. There's not many artists though, like singers, novelists, whatever, that can say that. So I do think it is a testament to how strong your style is, or how distinct it is, I suppose.
Yes, and obviously there aren't that many movie directors and filmmakers that have got individual styles anymore. Most of them, they can mix and match and change. There are a few, obviously. Wes Anderson stands out as being one, because as soon as you see, or even like the Beatles, even before you see a visual, as soon as you hear the first sort of notes of the music, you go, it's the Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same, yes, but there are very few out there that can get away with that sort of thing. But, that's probably a good thing as well. Let's face it, you don't want... You want to have a number of individual voices out there, but if everybody had an individual voice, it would kind of take away from the sort of real individual, the sort of not so much the trailblazers, but the ones that have been embedded in popular culture because of the sort of style they are. And then there's not an awful lot of them out there, especially music.
Yeah.
Music is, I think, because with popular music, and I hate that phrase, popular music,
yeah,
you're kind of looking back to sort of rock and roll in the 50s, early 50s, when it changed from being like big bands and crooners and all this sort of stuff, and it became more of a teenage thing.
Yeah.
And at first, everything sounded different. But we've had, 70 years of that now, so very little of it sounds different now. A lot of it sounds... You can sort of plot a course back and say, well, they've taken this bit from there and this bit from there. And it's not stealing or anything, it's influences, but it's difficult for somebody to come on and be completely new.
Brand new style or whatever that nobody's ever heard of. And even then, like, when you think about it, so much, because like streaming platforms like Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, because artists don't really make a lot of money off that, it's things like you need that sort of vile kind of like TikTok hook or whatever to get people listening to your music. So actually, even because of it's the same with like films and cinema and DVDs, because people don't buy physical music anymore, or the vast majority of people don't buy physical music anymore, you know, CDs, vinyl, whatever. The way we consume it obviously has changed, which means the style of music that is being produced has changed, because in order for an artist to make money on, is it Spotify, you need to hit 1 million
something like that
before you start making money. So that's obviously high numbers that you need to do in order to actually see any sort of compensation for it. So that also changes the type of music that's produced, which leaves less room for individuality, because, you know, if you're a really sort of left field sort of artist or band or whatever, and you want to make money off it, well, you know, you need to hit 1 million streams or whatever the number is. So that too changes the way that music is made.
Definitely. Yeah, there's an awful lot of artists out there now over the last couple of years that pay no heed to streaming services whatsoever. They may have their music on there, but they do not promote it at all on streaming services, because the amount of effort that it takes to carry out promotions and money it takes to carry out promotions, they get nothing back from it. Absolutely zero. Like you say, they need so many streams in order just to make any sort of money. And I just don't get why that is the case now, because it was always, you know, with streaming and everything, the artist is going to be in charge and all that. And it's just exactly the same as it was. In fact, it's worse than it was, because at least with artists, when they had deals for like album sales and things like that, they would make money out of it. People can make a living out of publishing and make money out of actually selling products now. Now you don't get that. It's nothing near that now. It's really weird because of that. You know, it's even more control is with the record companies than it was before, because they sell. They're the ones that do the deals with like Spotify. It's not really the artists that do the deals with Spotify and the other streaming services.
It does make you wonder, like, do they? So I assume then that most artists make their money out of touring, and maybe that's why we'd all say, like, we have said obviously that, you know, the cost of things has gone up post COVID, but actually maybe it's all kind of tying in with this notion that it's not going to be your record sales or your streaming sales, whatever you call it, that's going to make you your money. It's the, you know, giant arena tours that go all the way across Europe and North America or whatever. It's not, that's where you'll make the money out of it.
But the flip side of that as well is the artists who are able to do arena tours across Europe and America and Asia and whatever are the ones that are getting over 1 million hits anyway.
That's
so
true,
they're making the money on that. And the smaller acts are obviously putting their prices up, but they're in a position where people are not willing to pay £40 and £50 to go and see them at a small venue, whereas they'll pay £200 to go and see somebody at Hampden.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is mad.
Yeah, it's just it's weird that way, but that you're right. That is how they make their money. A lot of bands now, they do their own merchandising, so they sell their own merch, and that a lot of promoters and like these big companies have got wise to that as well, because they say, "Well, we'll take a cut of your merchandising." that you're selling, even though they've got nothing to do with the production of it. It's just basically a tax on the bands to say, well, we'll take 50% of your merchandising. So a lot of bands, I've seen it happen I've seen it advertised a few times. They hire out a small venue, like a room in a pub or something close to the gig venue, and they sell all their merchandise there. So people are coming in, buying stuff there, having a couple of drinks, and then going to the gig, and they're not doing any merchandising because they'll make zero money from that as well. They're basically just covering their costs and no more. So it's not worth their while if they do it at these arenas. And that's why you see like like you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, like t-shirts and sweatshirts and all that for tours and all that, and it was like 40, 50 quid. It was nearly as much as the ticket price itself to get a t-shirt, which has probably been made for like £5-6. Yeah. But they're having to add that cost on because that's what they're getting. They're only getting half of the profit from it. So
yeah, it's funny because I have been to two sort of smaller gigs recently, and the tickets were around the £50 mark. And I remember thinking at the time, a few years ago, these had been like 25, 30. So they've obviously jumped up as well. But it's even things like, as we've said before, like Edinburgh City Council, we're going to charge Oasis to put on extra trams and stuff like that. I suppose they need to factor all of that into.
Yeah.
And in a way, it makes sense as to why. See, for example, like that Red One, the Dwayne Johnson film, I've noticed now more and more, like, for example, Netflix films, which that is, having premieres, which they never used to do, because why would they? They were going straight to streaming services. But I feel now that there's a lot of pressure from the streamers are saying to sort of actors or directors or whoever it is, get out and promote this because we need the streaming numbers in order to justify the cost. And so I wonder if it's the same kind of like setup. It's like you need to do this promo tour, as it were, for something that's not a physical product, is it, where people will go on and watch it on Netflix or not, as the case may be. But it's that notion of you have to hit this kind of magic number, which we don't know what it is because Netflix tell us nothing.
Yeah.
But they have a number in mind of what they need to hit on, say, day one, week one, month one. And so now you've got these promo tours with the merch and the tie-ins and all the TV interviews and the Lad Bible and the Hot Wings challenge and all the rest of it. And it's now that's for the streamers as well, which you just never used to have.
Yeah, it's because there's so much noise around streamers in that when things come out, they can get a bit lost with everything else that's out there, and not everybody is going to get it splashed up in their main page of you know, this is a new Netflix film, because the way the algorithm works is going to push stuff that they've been watching. So they're not going to get the same sort of traction with just releasing it. So yeah, they need to, like I said, they need to do these big tours and all of this now in order to promote it, because there's so much stuff out there, let's face it. It's just a bit crazy sometimes, but that's the way things are going, unfortunately. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And if you look at it from a film point of view as well, when smaller films are coming out on Netflix and Amazon, you know, their exclusives, they're kind of getting a wee bit lost because they're not getting the premiere, they're not getting the tour. You know, they're not able to promote it as much. They may promote it on their own, but it's nowhere near as much as you would get with, you know, like a big London premiere or sitting on the couch with Lorraine or whatever, you know, that kind of idea. So yeah, not quite
it's
the same.
funny though, because it will be, I think, because I sent you that article during the week about the Conclave and Juror Number 2 about these mid-budget films, and I do think for a lot of them, and even the smaller films on the screeners, they will be relying on social platforms and word of mouth of people saying, oh, I've seen this and it's really good, and, you know, Ralph Fiennes is great in it, and it's, you know, there's already talk of Isabella Rossellini Oscar nomination despite having less than 8 minutes on screen. You know, they're relying on that buzz of people saying, I saw this film. And that's like the old-fashioned marketing, as it were, where they're relying on, you know, they don't have the big, you know, premiere budget and all the rest of it. So they're relying on people saying, whether it's been through podcasts or telling their colleagues at work or telling their family, or even just putting a tweet out about it saying, I saw this and it was really good. And that's kind of what they're hoping for. But interestingly, that is what's happening for those two films, and they are making money.
Yes, there is always a market for these films. It may not be your first choice at the cinema to actually go and see them, but if you go and see your first choice at the cinema and then the next week there's not anything new really coming out, so you will go and see whatever your second choice is, and if it happens to be the new Clint Eastwood film, you know, or like say if it is Conclave, because there's recognisable name talent there as well, and they say, "Oh, I saw something about it on Facebook or whatever," you know. So that's what it is, yeah. And or somebody recommended that to me, or oh yeah, I saw it was on the news because it was the London Film Festival was getting mentioned. It was mentioned at that or whatever, you know. Yes, you're right. It's more subtle, more sort of word of mouthy, but yeah, it shows that there is still a market for it, but it's an approach that it is a kind of an old-fashioned approach, in that you used to get films, not so much here, but in America, you would get them out in limited numbers, limited screens, and that would allow for the buzz to sort of pick up on it, and then it would expand out to thousands of screens, right? It'd be maybe on like 50 screens or something, but it'd be in key locations. There'd be some in New York, there'd be some in LA, you know, various sort of metropolitan areas, and then the reviews would come out and things would be talked about a wee bit more, and then they would spread out. And you kind of get that now. The same model is used for film festivals. A film can do a tour of festivals. It'll premiere at one, and then it'll go to, say, London, or it'll go to Toronto and London, or, you know, they'll debut there and go into London. Or there's, like, for instance, Blitz premiered at London, didn't it? And then it went on to various other film festivals, one of which it's actually pulled out of.
I saw that, and Coralie Farja has also pulled the substance from it as well.
Yes, I know, yeah. So it follows the same sort of model. These films, they get sort of almost like limited releases, but it's worldwide limited releases, and they're getting a bit of buzz about them. People will write about them. People will talk about them and say, "Oh, that new Ralph Fiennes film. Oh, that looks nice. He's always good. Oh, I like him. You know, he's always good. That kind of thing." So, it shows there's still a market for them, and they always do well. These films, like, see, as soon as the Clint Eastwood film goes to streaming, I'm assuming it's going to be. Probably it'll go into Sky Cinema because it's Warner Brothers, isn't it? And they don't have their own.
Oh, right. They don't
also, Warner Brothers, do they do HBO stuff as well? I'm not sure.
I think there was talk of them getting their own platform, but it's never materialised, so they might be tied into another streamer, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I think them and Sony are the two that don't really have their own sort of streaming. Sony works quite closely with Netflix. You find a lot of their films going there, but Warner I think it can be all over the place. But yes, in fact, I'm trying to think where there are Clint Eastwood films online, and I don't know if there really are that many, like in the sort of the standard pay ones, because they're not on Paramount, they're not on, maybe a couple on Netflix, but yeah, it's just limited release, limited time ones.
Yeah, I think there was a couple on Amazon, the Iwo Jima one, and then what's the one where he plays the grumpy neighbour? It's always the picture of him with a shotgun. That's kind of become like a meme now. I think that's on Amazon as well. I'm sure I saw that.
Is that Gran Turismo or something? Or?
Is that it? Yeah. I think that was on Amazon for a while.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been saying, because they're not on any one dedicated service. They're not tied in, because Warners don't really have that sort of output. If anything, it would be sort of Sky and stuff like that, because they've got a lot of stuff. Well, here anyway, they've got a lot of stuff actually goes to Sky, like the CW network, all their TV shows and stuff. They tended to be shown on sort of Sky channels and stuff like that. So but yes, they will find a home. That's the thing, and they will be popular. You'll find that on the week of release on whatever major streamer that they go on, there'll be number 1, number 2 films, because it's a new film and it's got name recognition, and people sitting in the house and going, "Oh, I'll give that a watch." Yeah, it looks quite a good one, you know. So yes, but it's just like we've said before, they're not willing to finance films that are $20-30 million, because they're not going to make hundreds of millions back. That's what they're looking for.
I get that. But with Conclave in particular, it's got a totally stacked cast, and the director has just come off, like, you know, one of the biggest, you know, like Oscar, BAFTA, Golden Globe wins for All Quiet on the Western Front. So it does seem bizarre that there's not more behind that, when there's, I mean, yes, obviously there's Clint Eastwood as a name, Nicholas Hoult and Toni Collette, but I'm just talking in comparison, it's quite a stacked cast. It just seems bizarre to me that that's not been as pushed as much.
I know. I just don't understand it. so many people out there who are talking about it, but it seems to be sort of within sort of film community rather than just in general terms. So we'll get maybe about 8 lines of a review in, say, the Sunday Times or whatever. It won't really get much more than that because, for one thing, I think Clint Eastwood is seriously underappreciated. He works at such a level, such a high level, that when he brings stuff out, they just say, it's another Clint Eastwood film, you know?
Yeah.
But when you compare it to other directors of, not even of the same age, but have been about...
Because there can't be many.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You know, with the same sort of track record, and you say, well, you know, a lot of them, the products that they actually produce aren't really very good anymore, you know. But with the likes of him, he's been very, very consistent. Maybe not terribly splashy in the way that he does things, and occasionally films come through and become big hits from him, but not always. A lot of the time it's just on a level, and it's very samey in terms of the way that the films are made, and people think, oh well, it's just another Clint Eastwood film, but it's a really, really good film, and it's really well made. It just...
It's funny, I think you're right. I think he is one of the more sort of dismissed directors, which is quite interesting.
Having lights on all day just does not do anything for me at all.
No, me neither. And it does always make me think of that film that you and Sammy made me watch, that 30 Days of Night, and I absolutely shat myself watching it and couldn't sleep for like 2 months afterwards. So when it starts to get like this, I'm like, oh my God, Danny Houston's going to come and he's going to rip my head off.
Yes, well, just checking back to see if I can actually read my own writing here, which is never a good thing.
I know. Do you know, that's something that I did the Vampire Videos podcast yesterday morning, and I only watched the film on, was it Thursday night or something like that? So it wasn't that long ago, so it should have been fresh in my memory, but I was looking through my notes going, did I write this with my toes? Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Well, when I look through my notes, I think I've had some sort of serious drinking problem or a medical episode, you know? It's fair enough when I'm doing it and it's in the dark. But when it's fully sort of, you know, daylight and I'm actually
when it's in your house and there's lines in the notebook that should tell you where to put your letters, and yet it's all over the place.
No, my handwriting has always been terrible. It's never been great. Just there's not much you can do about it, but not anymore, you know. I suppose I could go back to school or something, but no, I'm not going to do that either.
Learn how to do cursive, as the Americans call it.
Yes.
They just mean joined up handwriting.
Yep. More and more I'm thinking that Americans can just go and fuck off. I don't care what they say, and I don't care the fact that we've got American listeners to the podcast as well, because there's not that many of them. But yeah, just over the last couple of weeks, and the ongoing
have been made. Oh, honestly, every time he announces, so you've got Matt Gaetz, who literally looks like he's walked out the fucking Shining with those eyebrows and that smile, and then RFK Jr., the man who literally believes a worm lives in his head, is the new Minister for Health or whatever they call it over there.
I know.
What the fuck? So is it? Yeah, Gaetz has been accused of sex trafficking minors to the Bahamas. And he's now the Attorney General. So good luck if you try to prosecute him before, because you're probably going to lose your job now. I mean, it's even the Republicans are saying these are odd choices.
Did you not see his tweet? He was trying to defend it by saying, well, I've never been inappropriate with women, and I always follow the standard rule for dating younger women. So therefore, I never date anybody who is... the rule I use is half your age minus 7. And then
it's supposed to be plus 7.
Yes, he said minus 7. He says, and I'm 42. So that would be...
Oh my God.
At this moment in time, it would be dating 16-year-olds. 10 years ago, it would have been dating 6-year-olds.
Oh my God.
Because he got that wrong. Yeah.
What an odious. I can't. I mean, I was joking with my colleague Bora, who I work with. Honestly, between him and, you know, whatever he's doing to noise up Putin and the Koreans and the Hungarians and all the rest of it, I'm just like, see if this does actually come to like World War III. I'm not even going. I'm just going to let the blast take me. I can't deal with whatever this is going to be. I don't know. I feel like it's interesting because the voter turnout in America was really low. I think it was like something like only a third of the actual voting population turned out. But the problem is the ones that turn out are the ones that are convinced that, you know, there was a video of Trump, I think it was like 2 days before the election. And he was like, oh, Kamala Harris, she loves performing transgender surgeries. And I'm like, no, she fucking doesn't, because she's not a doctor. Like, she's not performing them. But there's just this group of people for whom their news consumption or their information consumption is so limited that so even though he is saying ludicrous statements like that, or they're eating the dogs or whatever it is he's coming out with, that is gospel. And therefore...
And anything they see that doesn't meet their narrative, they say, well, that's been made up, that's fake, it's not real. And you go, but you're watching it anyway and you're commenting on it. So why are you not just ignoring it? Because there was a thing last week that The Guardian announced that they would no longer be posting anything directly onto X.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
They said, there's no point, there's nothing to gain from us doing it because it's a completely toxic environment. Where, you know, and it is, because if you'll know better than I do because you're on X more than I am, but anytime that I'm on it and you see a post and you read it, and then if you look at the comments, at least one of them very high up in it is a sex comment, as in there's somebody showing off their big bazzoosums or whatever, you know, there's always something, or there's an advert for something, or there's something that's completely unrelated to the actual post itself.
Or it's just a cesspit of people who don't agree with you, because, as I say, I mean, certainly when I worked at the newspaper, you had to put your Twitter handle on your articles, and if people didn't agree with what you'd done in your articles, I mean, I had people threaten to dox me, wishing that I get sexually assaulted on my way home from work, hoping that I get cancer, all the rest of it. And this was years ago. And there's just this bravery of people who, from behind their laptops or phones or whatever, are quite happy to threaten or wish, you know, these terrible things on people. And it's only got worse from there. And that was before your Trump and Musk and all that were on the scene. So I can't even imagine what it's like now to try and exist peacefully on that platform as somebody from either like a minority group, or, you know, if you express an opinion that is not right leaning in terms of the American side of things. It's just, it's awful. I mean, I actually set up a Blue Sky this week just as an alternative to, you know, and I was populating that, following people that I follow on Twitter that I like and stuff like that. And already it just seems like a much nicer environment. Like, you know, you're putting out things saying, oh, I watched this or whatever, and people are like, oh, I hope you really enjoy it, and not just like, fuck off, I hope you die. It's just the, you know, the alternative. So we'll see how it goes. You know, it's not just X, but it does seem to be the harbinger of doom at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, I do like the fact that these people, or some of these people, are now actually being held to account, because they're not really the brightest people out there in terms of hiding their identities. So when they write something horrible to a certain individual, and then that individual carries out like a reverse image search on them, or even just looks at the profile because they're stupid enough to actually put like personal information in there, and then they find out, you know, maybe they'll find out their Facebook profile or something, so they'll send whatever offensive message they sent to everybody that they know, including their work, and say, is this the kind of person that you want to employ? And they're kind of like, oh, fuck. And I've seen people come back saying, oh, I was in a really dark place when I wrote that. You know, I was really struggling with my demons. You know, I'm a better person now and all that. And they're going, oh, you fuck.
Yeah. Who is the guy this week that I can't remember his name, but he's the Nick Fuentes, the Your Body, My Choice guy. Yeah. And of course, the internet did its thing. I'm not condoning this, but I am saying it rather gleefully. They found out where he lived, and then his house mysteriously burned down because people were like, and, you know, I don't know how that's happened, but after that odious statement, I thought, well, you've put that out there on the internet. Your address is on the internet, dude. You're not very smart.
Yeah. I would have been so happy if the fire department turned up and said, your fire, our water.
That would have been amazing. But it just goes to show you, though, the people that follow him in particular are so far into that echo chamber that they're never getting back out. And they do believe that, you know, because obviously there's a lot of chat about the 4B movement, which originated in South Korea, about no dating, no having sex, no marrying, and no having children with men, because women are just fed up of all the shit, basically, that they're having to put up with. And this is where that your body, my choice response came from. It's like, okay, you don't want to date us, you don't want to have sex with us, well, we can do whatever you want, whatever we want with you, you know, when you're just walking down the street or when you're at your work or whatever. So you're just perpetuating this like culture of just mass rape and sexual assault. Like, why do you want to be the poster boy for that? That's what I don't get. Like, why do you want your name associated with, you know, if even one rape is committed because somebody read that tweet, why would you want to be the poster boy for that?
Because they'll say it wasn't them that did it. They'll deny. That's the Trump playbook. That was
the January the 6th thing.
Yeah, you know, everything before that's basically his MO from day one, and it's highlighted in that film, The Candidate.
Right.
Oh, sorry, no, The Apprentice. It's not The Candidate, and it's how he was actually formed as this businessman by this lawyer. I think it's Roy Cohn, his name is.
Yes.
And one of the sort of the tenets of his belief system is you deny everything. It doesn't matter what it is, you deny it. If somebody comes up and says, "Oh, you said that," no, that wasn't me. And that's what his whole thing is, and that's what they all do now. You see them all doing that. They make all these statements, and then when they're called out on them, they say, "It wasn't me. I've got nothing to do with this. I am not responsible for this." And you saw that, like you said, in January 6th stuff, where a lot of people were saying, "You stood up and told people to riot," and they're saying, "No, I didn't. It had nothing to do with me. You know, I wasn't there."
It's like the Andrew Tate thing. Every interview you see with him, he's like, "You've misinterpreted that," or "I didn't see it," and it's so frustrating because you actually want to punch fuck out of him because you've got a news, you know, caster or whatever, a journalist sitting there with, you know, quite literally the receipts going, "Here's the date that you said it, here's the platform you posted on, and here's what you said," and he's just like, "No."
Yep, evidence doesn't
gaslighting in the extreme. It's awful.
Yeah. That's exactly what they do. That's the way that they operate now, and it's just don't care. They don't care about the consequences because it's all about their own wee sort of cult of personality and pushing them up the ladder a wee bit more until they get to. I mean, Trump is now sort of the poster boy for that whole movement of people saying, "Well, see if I do shit things, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get called up on them." It used to be before, if a politician did something daft, they would have to resign. You know,
splashed all over the papers and
Yeah, I watched a film yesterday, actually. It's a film from 2016, Richard Gere film called Norman, the slight rise and terrible fall of a New York fixer. I'd never heard of it before. It was just on Prime. And it just came up on, you know, it was one of, you know how Prime release a film every day on the service, and 90% of them are shite. At the moment, it's all these Hallmark Christmas films.
Hey, they're not shite. I just want to see a big city woman go back to her small town and make terrible decisions.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the doctor, you know, there's a doctor as well who's there, and he's very attractive, but he's never been attached to anybody for years. Yep. Yeah. So this was one of those films, and basically this is a film. He's a fixer, as in he's a sort of a political fixer. He wants to, you know, bring people together and, you know, basically further his career, and he's this wee sort of mousy Jewish guy, so it's all around the sort of Jewish community, and he happens to meet this sort of third, maybe fourth string Israeli politician who's over in New York for a meeting, and he befriends him, and he thinks, well, maybe he could do me some good at some point, you know, that kind of thing. So, and he buys him a pair of shoes, and these shoes are like $1,200, are really, really expensive shoes. And what happens is, in the next 3 years, this guy becomes the Prime Minister of Israel, and then there's a scandal about him accepting bribes, and the bribe is getting this pair of shoes. Yeah. So, and because of that, there was like lots of uproar in the Israeli parliament about, you know, prime ministers accepting bribes and foreign interest and all that, and, you know, it was all resign, and you're thinking that wouldn't happen now. It's just, you know, they would just say, Nah, it never happened. Nothing to do with me. It's just people are making it up.
Well, look at Starmer. The tickets to the Arsenal game, is it Arsenal that he supports? Whatever game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that he supports and all this, and he just turned around and said, "Well, I can't possibly go to the game like a normal punter," and that was the accepted answer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's mental, and I think that's the thing. Like, lots of people feel like they're losing their minds, and you can see why when those are the answers that are being given.
That I can understand from a security point of view, because if he's just in the stand, he's sitting in the stand, he's very open, so therefore the security that's going to have to be around him is going to be pretty immense. Whereas if he's in a box, it's much easier to control. Yes, but then he doesn't need to be wearing a suit that's been donated by somebody else.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, there are things that I understood the football thing. That seems to be fair enough, because it would actually cost a lot more to make him secure in a stand. But the fact that they've accepted like loads of gifts and all this sort of stuff, and you're like, no, you earn a lot of money anyway. You can afford to buy your own clothes. Your wife can afford to buy her own clothes. She's a professional, it's not as if it's just that, they're a single income family.
I think it always galls me more when it's the Labour left that are doing it as well. You're supposed to be the party for the people, the working people. You kind of expect that parties on the right or the sort of conservative side take, they're all business interests, and they sort of take whatever they can get. I think it's more galling when it's somebody who's supposed to be for working people that is taking the thousands of pounds worth of freebies, as it were.
Yeah, there was the SNP one, the Minister for Sport, and he was using basically the company car to go to Hampden to watch Aberdeen play, because he's an Aberdeen fan. And you're thinking, that's fair enough, he's going to sporting events, but it's only Aberdeen that he's going to see. He's not going to see like some local women's hockey game that's that's happening at Glasgow Green or anything. It's very, very specific, and you're thinking, nah, you're not on. They have to be not more careful. They just have to say no. That's it's funny
that you're saying that about being more careful. I actually don't think they have to be. They just have to have better PR, because it's like what you're saying. If you just come out and deny it, or just say, "Oh, made a wee whoopsie, won't do it again, promise," like that's all you need. You're not going to have the same sort of trial by newspaper that you used to have, say back in the 80s or 90s, when you had like your sleaze scandals. Like, remember your big John Prescott affair that you had and all that? You're never going to have that again. It's just a case of, as you said, either deny or just go, whoops, yeah, that was me, really sorry. And there's absolutely no consequence for it.
Well, I think there still is here, not so much, but if you think about the sort of scandals that the Scottish government's been involved, I mean, there's a fucking camper van and an iPad, and that's what dominated the news cycle for months.
Do you remember when that gorilla went missing from the garden centre, and there was rumours that Nicola Sturgeon had used it to funnel all the dodgy money out of the country?
I mean, even the scandals are rubbish. I
know. They're not even good ones.
I suppose you should be grateful for that in a way that it's not. They've not sold off vast tracts of the country. I know they're already owned by like, what is it, 2% of the population anyway, but that's a completely different moan. But yes, it's just, for fuck's sake, really get a grip, for fuck's sake.
I do feel like the gorilla thing could be a Hitchcock plot, though, which ties in really nicely.
Of course it could, aye. Yeah, the gorilla who didn't really know anything at all, or something,
Oh dear. Or South by Southeast, because that's the direction he was taking when he was going out of the country. Oh, tenuous as ever, but I do love that.
Yep, brilliant.
Did stuff for Jump Cut as well. The ad revenue is important if you're, paying your staff writers or whatever, but it doesn't always make for the best reading experience on mobile. Certainly desktop, you can sort of skirt around it, but on mobile it can be quite frustrating, definitely.
Because what was the one we were looking at a couple of months ago? It was for one of the sites that, it was for Total Film, and down the sides.
Oh, that's horrendous. Yeah. It's absolutely horrendous. It's like being on, I don't know if so Reach PLC that own like Glasgow Live, Daily Record, Mirror, all that. You cannot read an article on their websites because it's like pop up, right down the side, over the top, videos over it that are nothing to do with the article.
Yeah.
I hadn't been on the Total Film website for a while, but when we were talking about that and I went on and looked, I was like, I can't read anything. It's terrible.
I know. I think it sort of feeds into the whole thing about people with their attention spans, that they're just going to pop onto the site. And if you pop onto the site and these adverts pop up, and then you're going to go elsewhere, but they've done their job. The adverts have actually come up and they've been visible, if you like, so therefore they get the revenue from it. I don't know how that works in terms of revenues, whether an advert has to run for so many seconds or whatever before.
I think, I can't remember what it was. So there's obviously click and click through, which is the main thing. But I think it has to run for, is it 5 seconds, 3 seconds to count as a view? I can't remember what the thing is, because fine well, like yourself, if you go onto YouTube and you've got the ads, the minute it says skip, I'm like click, because I don't want to watch 5 minutes worth of stuff. I think, I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 seconds that it has to count as a view.
Yeah, that makes total sense, I suppose, because ads are just everywhere now. Like how in Amazon, on the TV shows in Amazon, it said there would be minimal adverts. You're getting 5 advert sections on a show that's an hour long, so you're getting one in the beginning and the end, and then you're getting 3 during it, and some of them are like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's like, fuck's sake, it's just getting worse and worse.
Because I remember we talked about this when it first came in, and we were like, it doesn't seem too bad, hopefully it will stay that way. Spoilers, it did get worse. And you knew that was coming. You absolutely knew that was coming, because I watched a couple of films on Amazon yesterday, and I was kind of thinking, I wonder how long it will take before they're sort of bookended by ads, because obviously I don't think they would do it in the middle of a film. You would hope
they do.
That
they
really
do.
Would. Really? I haven't seen that yesterday.
Film I watched yesterday, when I watched that film, Norman, about 45 minutes in, stops and there's ads for a couple of minutes and it comes out. There was only the one in a 2-hour film, but there was ads at the start before the film started as well. And I'm assuming
the films I watched were like 90 minutes. Maybe they're not long enough to count for.
Possibly, yeah. Or they may not have done all of their catalogue yet. Anything new that comes in, yes, they're automatically putting ads into them. But you find some other stuff, some stuff I've watched that's been about for a good few years doesn't have it, but they're probably just working their way through it. It'll be a process to find out where the best place is to put the adverts in, because when they started, they were just shoving them in anywhere.
Yeah. In the middle of a vital plot point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I am convinced that whoever works in the ad department in Channel 4 is in some sort of passive-aggressive rant, because they do it just before the end of a scene.
Yeah.
And then when it comes back, it starts you just see about a second and a half of the previous scene before it moves in, and you go, they've done that on purpose.
100%. They are sitting there hating their job, going, well, fuck you, viewers.
Yep.
Have an advert.
Yeah. This is for you, Marilyn. I know you left me, so fuck you. I know you like this program, so bang. Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.